Good morning or afternoon, everyone. This is Mark here, and we're going to go through a little bit of our Warehouse Insight product today. But before we do that, let's talk very briefly about, why you'd want a tool like Warehouse Insight, to do barcoding. And really, there's a whole bunch of reasons: efficiency, all sorts of things that, will give you a return on investment by going to a barcoding solution. The ones we typically, see the biggest benefit on or focus on are the improvements in inventory accuracy and the timeliness of that information. And inventory accuracy manifests itself in a lot of different ways, right? If your inventory is very accurate within your warehouse, and I go and I say, I need to pick these 10 items, we send somebody to the location with those 10 items, and we have a really high degree of confidence that those items are going to be there. They're not going to be running around the warehouse for 20 minutes or whatever, trying to find what they're looking for. So you're going to save a ton of time of people running around trying to find things. You're also not going to be able to ship the wrong product because we're physically verifying everything you do, right? You're telling the system, yeah, I'm shipping 10 of these. Well, if you're not physically scanning that to prove those are the 10 you're shipping, you could be making mistakes. So we save you from having to, ship the wrong product back to you, ship the right product out, annoy the customer, all that sort of thing. So that's a big savings. Same thing on receiving. You're not going to be able to receive the wrong product from a vendor because you're scanning that in to validate it. Right, so all sorts of ways that inventory accuracy improves your operations. And then the timeliness of information is important too, because you're not having to write things down on paper, hand it in, have somebody type it in, process it. It gets away from all of those delays that you have with paper processing and everything else, and that can save you a ton of money and improve your communications with customers and vendors and things like that. All right. Now, after all that, you probably already know why you want to do barcoding if you're on this call. Why would you use Warehouse Insight instead of, one of the other things that are out there? Well, all the reasons on this sheet, I guess, on this page, but it's fairly advanced functionality. We tie in directly with Business Central, so we're leveraging all the Business Central capabilities for warehouse and inventory management and everything else, and then we're adding the mobile aspect and a whole bunch of other goodies. So that gives us the similar level of functionality to some of these standalone systems that are an order of magnitude more expensive than where we are. Cost wouldn't matter if we don't have that functionality. So that's kind of the level we're living at, is that sort of higher end WMS solution. And if you need something basic, well, the cost is free. To go to WMS Express, it does everything that Warehouse Insight does for those core capabilities of receiving, shipping, or picking, counts, and movements. All right. So anyway, it's short to shorten that up. Long story short, as they say, it's good. So WMS or Warehouse Insight and WMS Express have good functionality, and they're built right into Business Central and NAV. So that means there's no separate database that you have to integrate with, no batch uploads, none of that stuff. Everything I do from the handheld is real time with Business Central. So I'm going to get that real-time feedback on the shop floor that I've done something wrong or I need to do something else. That just happens naturally. We can also extend it, which is really important as well. Out of the box, it gives you pretty much everything you need to run your warehouse. But if you need to change your workflow, or maybe you want to add some custom behavior, or you've got custom apps within Business Central you want to expose on the handheld, well, you can do that. And when I say you, I mean you. If you have the internal expertise, you can go in, you can use our application designer, and you can build your own apps. You can do whatever you like. It's an open platform. We publish all the documentation on how to do development in it and all those sorts of things. Now, quite often it's us or the partner doing that work because we have the expertise, but it doesn't have to be. It could be, something you do yourself. Okay, now we do support Windows devices. There's no iOS support, but Android is really the technology that you're going to run in the warehouse. If you're buying a scanner today, it's going to be an Android scanner or an Android tablet or something like that. So we do support that. And if you have legacy Windows devices like the old Windows CE devices, as long as they're not more than 10 years old or so, they should work just fine with Warehouse Insight and WMS Express. It does take a little more effort to get those set up and working, but we do support those as well. So you don't necessarily have to buy new hardware in your environment. And of course, with Android, we run on handheld devices and phones and things like that. I'll talk about that in a sec. If you do need new devices, we can supply that hardware. And if you buy it from us, it comes preloaded, pre-configured. You just scan a couple barcodes and you're up and running. So we'll supply the software, optionally the hardware, we'll do the support, and quite often we'll do the implementation as well. A lot of partners do it themselves, but sometimes they have us do the implementation. So we'll do the training, the help you with configuration, the UAT support, all that kind of stuff. So really you're coming to one company for all your WMS needs. Okay, so anyway, some of the reasons why Warehouse Insight kicks butt. Now, I'll cover these modules off in the demo, so I'll skip this slide right here. Let's talk very briefly about hardware. I'll show you the examples. I'm going to use a device like this in the demo, but I'll show you what that looks like. And that's really the style of device that most people want to use. You can get phone style devices that don't have any physical keypad whatsoever. You can even run it on a phone, but if you do run it on a phone, you know, don't do that in a warehouse if you're an outside sales guy, or maybe you're a warehouse supervisor that only needs to scan maybe a few times a day to double check things or something like that. Sure, run it on a phone, use the camera to scan the barcodes. But for, you know, real everyday usage, you're going to want a dedicated scanner type device or a tablet with a little Bluetooth or USB scanner attached to it or something like that. Okay, and again, you can go to our website and check out, we've got a mobile device buying guide, a whole bunch of goodies on there to figure out what kind of device you need. You can get the hardware off there, or you can call us if you need a quote on the hardware, especially if you have multiple devices that you're after. All right, now let's talk about barcoding very briefly. So we support any barcode format. This is a common question, like, you know, a vendor's got this custom format, or we're using GS1 with these app IDs and delimiters, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, no problem. We can support all that. Doesn't matter what's in the barcode or what format it is. We can read it and we can figure out what you're dealing with in Business Central. And if you're doing your own barcoding, we'll often recommend these data matrix codes. So these little square barcodes here, those are data matrix. They're kind of like a QR code, just more sort of industrial. And the advantage of these guys is, you know, this little guy at the bottom, if I print it out, is 1/2 inch square, and I can hold 40 characters worth of data in a barcode that size. So I can put item number, lot number, expiry date, unit of measure, quantity, variant code, all of that could fit in one barcode. And then I got one barcode to scan and I've got everything I need to deal with that product. Or if I make that barcode 1.5 inches or 2 inches tall, I can scan that from 40 or 50 feet away with the right scanner. So I can be sitting on a forklift scanning the top rack or scanning a pallet on the forks without ever getting off my seat. Okay, so this is the type of barcode we typically recommend, but you can use any barcode format you like. All right, with that, I'm going to jump into the demo. Now, I am going to do the demo in Business Central Cloud here, so everything we're doing is going to be connected to the cloud environment. And what I'm going to be doing as we go through the demo is I've got a handheld device in my hand, and I'm about to show you what that looks like. So this is the device I'll actually be using to scan barcodes and do the demo. So I've actually got this Honeywell CK65 in my hand. It's got this nice physical keypad. And later on in the demo, as soon as this thing focuses, I'm going to hit this, you know, these F keys, these little orange F keys here are shortcuts. So instead of tapping the screen all the time, you can actually use these shortcut buttons to execute commands. This guy's got a pistol grip, he's got a camera, all that kind of good stuff. So this is the guy I'll be using to scan. And what that'll look like on your screen is over here, this is the screen of this device. So as I touch this and I move things around, you'll see it react on the screen on the right here. Okay, so that's one style of device. Here's another one. So you get this style of device that has, this one still has a little numeric keypad on the bottom, which is handy because you're mostly entering numbers when you do this. But you can get devices like this that, you know, don't even have this keypad on the bottom. It's a little scanner on there, of course. It's got the camera, it's got all that kind of good stuff. And of course, this one's running WMS Express, so that's a little bit of an example of, you know, what you get with WMS Express versus what you get with Warehouse Insight, but all the core stuff on WMS Express. Okay, so those are the devices I'll be using, and the barcodes I'll be scanning. I used our barcode generator tool to generate a bunch of barcode sheets, and let me just get them here. So this is the style of barcode I'll be scanning, right? So these data matrix codes, and I'll just be using this, you know, this device, and I'll be going deep and scanning the barcodes, and we're done. Okay, so that's basically what you're about to see. So let's switch back into Business Central and get going. Now, all of the apps that you see on here are actually built inside Business Central. So if we come in here, any of the management on these devices is all done in here in Business Central. So all the configurations, all the applications, all your extensions, offline, all that kind of stuff, fact boxes, all of that's managed in Business Central. So if I want to change what this menu looks like or add my own applications, like for example, this job journal one here is an application I built with our app wizard and plugged it in. So you can do all of that kind of stuff from within Business Central. Now, once those apps are defined in Business Central, they're available on the device. And of course, we're on Wi-Fi with a low battery here, but we're on Wi-Fi, and that's what we want. We want to be on Wi-Fi all the time, right? Or, you know, some data connection, could be 4G or whatever it happens to be. But with that data connection, we're talking real time with Business Central. So you want good Wi-Fi within your facility. You don't want dead spots and things like that. Now, if the network goes down or Business Central goes down or something bad happens, you can go into the offline mode, and you can have as many offline apps as you like. But you can go into the offline mode and you can keep scanning those barcodes. And that's really handy if you have lot numbers and serial numbers that you don't want to be writing down. So what that does is it saves you from having to resort to pen and paper to record what you're doing. And then when you're back online, you can upload those scans into Business Central and process them from within Business Central to finish your pick or receiving or shipping documents that you're working on. All right. Now, let me give you a quick overview of these different applications here, and then we'll jump in and see what they look like. So the first couple here are inquiry modes. So I scan a barcode, it tells me what it is. So in the case of item inquiry, I can scan a serial number or a lot number or an item number or custom barcode, whatever it happens to be, it'll give me detail about that item. And same thing with bin, I scan a bin code, it'll tell me what pallets are in there or what items are in that bin, that sort of thing. Now, we don't necessarily even have to have bins turned on. So you might be in an environment where maybe you've got a parts room and you just need a scanner or two to be able to, you know, record what people are taking out of the parts room. And you may not want to turn on bins. You might have shelf numbers instead. Well, you don't have to have bins enabled. We'll work with any configuration that you have in Business Central. So if you have Business Central set up today to manage your warehouse, but it's all on paper and you want to switch to barcodes, you don't have to change your configuration in Business Central. We'll just plug into that and just allow you to use the mobile devices to do everything and streamline a lot of that capability. So another one is retail, right? You have a distribution center where you have full warehousing turned on and you've got all of these things available. And then in the retail store, they're not going to have any of this stuff. They're going to want to maybe receive a transfer order, you know, and maybe do inventory count. So that's all they'll see on their device, and they don't need bins. Anyway, point is, we can work with any Business Central configuration that you have. Now, on the inventory count, we've got a couple of options. We've got the advanced count, which is an add-on module, and that does a lot more than the standard Business Central inventory counting capabilities. But we also have a standard count, which allows you to just, you know, scan into the physical inventory journal and record your inventory that way, both cycle counts and full physical counts. On the receiving side, the way I've got it set up, I do have the full warehousing set up on this device, which means I have two-stage receiving set up. I receive into a receiving area, and then I do a secondary activity to put that stock away. And of course, that's all driven by the Business Central configuration. So if you don't want to do that, we can receive directly against a purchase order or transfer order, or I could just use inventory putaways to put stock away as I'm receiving it. The same thing goes for picking and shipping, or picking and production. I've got it set up so that I pick everything, I drop it off at shipping or production, and then somebody else takes over to do something with the product I just dropped off. But I can pick directly against a sales order or a transfer order, or I can use an inventory pick to execute those picks as well. On the movement side, we can do an ad hoc move. So I just scan a bunch of items and a bunch of bins I want to move. I scan where I'm placing those items, and it does that movement for me, that bin movement for me automatically. In the non-directed warehouses, you can also move from location to location, so from warehouse to warehouse, if it's a non-directed warehouse using this app. The movement is inventory movements or warehouse movements. So if you want directed movements, you can generate those movements in Business Central and push those to the device, and then somebody can execute those movement instructions. On production side, we can do consumption and output. So we can record consumption against production orders with lot numbers, serial numbers, all that kind of good stuff. And of course, we can do the output of the finished goods. We can output to pallets to our license plating module. So we can do a whole bunch of stuff on the output side as well. And quite often what we'll see is we'll see these guys running on tablets at the production area. So you've got a fixed tablet at the start of the line where they're doing consumption, and at the end of the line, they're doing the output, using a tablet, either touch screen or USB scanner. And that's how often these guys will work. If you need something more robust for production management, we have a product called Shop Floor Insight, which does labor tracking, quality, a whole bunch of good stuff. So check out Shop Floor Insight and MXAPS if you're a manufacturer. We can also do assembly orders, so we can do assemble to stock or assemble to order. And so we can pick, record the lot numbers, serial numbers of all the items you're consuming. We can do output for assemble to stock, all of that kind of good stuff. Now, license plating is a little more advanced module. And what that's used for is building up a container of items. So it could be a box, a pallet, a mixing bowl, whatever it happens to be, with different items, different lot numbers, those sorts of things. And then I've got one identifier, like one barcode to use to reference everything on that license plate. So, the most typical example is a pallet, right? I'm driving down the aisle with the forklift executing a pick, and I'm building up a pallet as I go. Well, if I use license plating, I start that license plate and I start building up that pallet. When I drop it off at shipping, I know exactly what's on that pallet. I know how many pallets I have for that shipment, all of that kind of good stuff. So if you need to refer to multiple different items or multiple different lot numbers and serial numbers with one scan, license plating is for you. If you're doing pallets, but they're all sort of the same lot number or same item on a pallet, you may not or probably don't need license plating. License plating is great for shipping and for managing product or staging consumption where you do have multiple items, multiple serial numbers, lot numbers on a single pallet or box or whatever. Okay, and I'll talk about this a little more in a second. All right, with that, let's jump in and see what these guys look like. So I'm going to start with receiving. So I open that up, and it goes out to Business Central and gets me a list of all the purchase orders in the system that I can receive against. And so here, I might have a list of 300 POs, and I don't want to find the one, right? I'm standing at the back door. I've got the vendor's packing slip in my hand, and it has my purchase order number on it. So I'll find that in the list and start working on it. But if I've got 300 POs in there, I might not want to go scrolling. I can just type in, a few digits of that PO, and it'll filter the list down. Or I could come in, I could scan an item. Like, let's say I've got 3 pallets in front of me or 3 boxes. I could grab one of the items, scan it. It'll filter that list down to all the purchase orders that have that item on it. And then I might want more information. So what I can do on here, I can actually tap the screen and say choose columns. And when I do choose columns, that allows me to hide or show a bunch of additional detail, right? So if I want to see the vendor name on that screen, I can make that visible, or the expected receipt date, or any of those sorts of things. So on a user by user basis or globally, I can hide or show whatever fields I want. Again, all these fields, these columns, are configured inside Business Central. So if you've got custom fields that you want to show, or additional standard fields out of Business Central, or whatever it happens to be, you can make those available on the handheld devices and show them to the users to help them, get the information they need to work. Okay, so at any rate, there's a bunch of stuff you can do there, but in my case, I've got the vendor's packing slip in my hand. It has my purchase order number on it. It happens to be this guy here. So I tap it, I open it up, and it gives me everything I need to receive on that particular purchase order. Now, if you know what a warehouse receipt is, what it actually did was it created a warehouse receipt for me on the fly, or it found an existing one for this purchase order and opens it up. If you don't know what a warehouse receipt is, just ignore that. This is just everything I need to receive for that particular purchase order. All right, now at this point, there's 3 different potential scenarios that you're going to run into and around barcoding. So the first one is, the vendor barcodes all the product for you. You've got UPC codes on there, or vendor specific barcodes, or whatever that happens to be. And that's ideal. That's what you want. You want your vendor to put the barcodes on the product for you. Right? Barcoding's been around for about 60 years now. They should get on the bandwagon and barcode their stuff. Because then I can just start, grabbing items and start scanning. Now, if they don't barcode that for you, you have a couple of options. Number one, I could just choose one of these lines here, select it on the screen, or use the arrow keys on my keypad to choose the line, and then hit the enter button on my keypad, or come in here and hit change quantity and manually enter a quantity that I'm receiving, right? So this is good if you're receiving packaging, or maybe it's steel plate or something or whatever, some things that you maybe aren't ever going to barcode. Well, I don't need a barcode to receive or pick or do anything with those items. I can do that manually just on the screen. But ideally, you want to barcode things so that it's easy, you can scan it. So the other option is I could print barcodes at this point, or I could pre-print the barcodes for the items, or I could, first enter the quantity, and as soon as I enter the quantity, it prints out a bunch of barcodes. But the ability to do this print option here, that will allow me to print any report from within Business Central out to whatever printer is associated with the device. So in this case, if I hit print, maybe it prints all the item labels for the line I have selected, or maybe for everything on this purchase order, or maybe you have custom logic in there that you've got a flag that tells you, whether an item needs a label or not. Any of those sorts of scenarios that you may want to customize, or just use the built-in sort of item label, or whatever you want to do, I can print that from the device. You also have complete control over these menus. You can hide or show whatever menus you like. And so you could have 3 different print options. Maybe one is for a label, another is for a copy of the PO, another is a safety data sheet. Whatever you want to do, you can extend the solution just through configuration to print whatever you want, really. Okay. So those are the 3 scenarios. Number 1, I have a barcode already, which is ideal. Number 2, I can print my own barcodes. Number 3, I can enter the information without having any barcodes whatsoever. So let's go through, I've got everything, it came in barcoded, or I've generated my own barcodes or whatever. And now I'm just going to start scanning to do my, my receiving. And so I'm going to grab one of the items out of the palette. I'm going to scan the barcode. So just for fun, I'm going to scan this 1906-S down here at the bottom. And I don't have to know what I'm scanning. I'm just grabbing a box off the palette, scanning the barcode, and we'll see what happens. So here we go. I'm going to go scan that barcode. And what it does is it finds it, optionally shows me a picture of that item. And you can turn that on or off as you see fit. But that's handy if you're doing your own barcoding, right? If there it showed me a picture of a table, if I've got a pair of socks or something in my hand, I know I've got a problem with the barcode or the data or something, and I can make those corrections right then and there. So anyway, it shows me the picture optionally, and now I can optionally enter a quantity. So we can default this quantity into almost anything you like. It could start at 0, it could default to a quantity of 1 and not even show the screen. We can set it to the remaining quantity, and that can be by item category, by item tracking, any bunch of different criteria. You can control how this quantity screen works. And the same thing with unit of measure. I don't think I have multiple units here, but if I have multiple units of measure, I can change the unit of measure right here, or I could read that unit of measure in from the barcode as well, right? If I scan a case pack, this could be cases, and if I scan an individual item, it can show up as pieces. So you've got all of those options here. But really what I care about is just entering a quantity. So I scan the barcode, I'm going to enter a quantity of 2 and hit OK or hit enter on my keypad to receive that quantity of 2. Now, one other thing down here, this country of origin and number of labels, those are custom fields I actually added to the system myself. It took, maybe a minute to add these additional fields on the handheld to allow me to capture more information. So you can add whatever additional detail you want. And again, it can be per item or item category or whatever you like to capture more information. Now, you still need some kind of logic within Business Central to do something with this data, right? Like if I enter country of origin, I'm going to have to store that somewhere, or a number of labels, I might want to print some sort of custom report or whatever. But being able to extend it on the handheld is dirt simple. Then you just have a little bit of logic in Business Central to do something with that data once the user hits OK. At any rate, I just, I scan, I enter quantity of 2, I hit enter, and we've updated Business Central with this quantity to receive, and I've got 18 left to find in the shipment. So maybe I get to the second or third pallet and I find more of these guys. So again, I just scan the barcode, don't know what I'm scanning, but I scan it. It's like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I have in my hand. And now I enter the quantity I found in this pallet. Maybe I found 15. And all it does is it just keeps incrementing this quantity and reducing my outstanding quantity. So what that means is I don't have to unpack all 3 pallets, put each item into its own little pile, and then scan it and enter the quantity once. Just as I'm finding these things, I'm entering the quantity I've got in my hand, and it's taking care of that for me. Okay, so it's simple as that. Scan barcode, optionally enter quantity, and I'm done, right? So for example, that 1900S, the second item there, if I scan that guy, right, scan it, skip the picture, hit enter, and we're done. I've just received that item, physically verified that we've got the right item, and we're good. Now, if you're receiving items with lot numbers and serial numbers, it's very similar, but different. So this guy down here is a lot tracked item. And if I find one of those, I'm going to scan a barcode for that guy. And what it'll do is it'll come up, and I've got a similar, quantity entry screen here, but it's brought in the lot number. And that lot number was part of the barcode, right? So if you've got GS1 codes or custom barcodes that have the lot number in it, we'll bring that in automatically. If the barcode didn't have the lot number, what it would do is it would highlight this field, and I could either manually enter it, I could scan a secondary barcode for the lot number, right? So some vendors have, UPC code for the item and then a second barcode for the lot or serial number. So I could scan that there, or I can have the system generate that lot number for me automatically. Okay. Same thing with expiration date. I can generate that, I can scan it, I can manually enter it, it could come out of the barcode, whatever you want to do. Quantity and unit of measure is the same thing. So really everything on the screen that you see here could have been brought in right from the barcode. Lot number, expiration date, quantity, unit of measure, all that stuff could come right out of the barcode. Okay. Now here I'm just going to say, yeah, I found 22 of those lot number ones. It's exactly the same thing, right? Records it, stores it in BC. If I find, the same item but a different lot number, now it's brought up lot number 2, and I say I found 44 of those guys. It's doing exactly the same thing, but it is keeping track of those individual lot numbers. Like it's updated the purchase order with those lot numbers. If I hit enter here, it'll bring up a list of all the lot numbers I've received and quantities and everything else, or serial numbers. If you're receiving serialized items, it's exactly the same. It just doesn't prompt you for the quantity. And with serial numbers, it's kind of nice because I can, go to the item, open the screen, and just start scanning serial numbers here. And it makes it very easy to receive serialized items. Okay. All right, so that's the basics of receiving, right? Scan a barcode, optionally enter quantity, done. Now, there's a few other things we can do here while we're receiving. One of them is this take picture option at the bottom. So that's a standard sort of menu item or standard capability in the system. And you can enable that on pretty much any application within the system. And where we normally see that is on receiving and on shipping. So in receiving, this is handy if I receive damaged goods, right? So the box is all mangled or the product's clearly expired or whatever it happens to be. I can take photos of that, and that will automatically upload and attach in Business Central to the purchase order or whatever document we're working on. And now the purchaser has what they need to start a claim with the carrier or the vendor. And similarly on shipping, if you're shipping LTL, you can take pictures of all the pallets and the truck and everything before it leaves. So if there's a damage claim back to you, you've got proof that everything left in good shape. So that's kind of handy. Okay. Or take pictures of paper documents, right? You get a driver to sign a sheet. You can take photos of that in case that piece of paper blows out the back door and disappears. Now, the other thing we can do here is this license plating. So we talked about that earlier in the context of, kind of picking or consumption. Well, I can do this at receiving as well. I can do that anywhere in the system. So let's say I'm unloading a container or something like that. I could be building up these license plates, and then I've got a single, barcode to represent everything on that pallet, and I can go ahead and take that into the warehouse or do whatever I need to do with those pallets. Okay. Now let's see what else. I think that kind of covers receiving. There's a question there I'll get to at the end, so just hang on to that. All right, now the last thing that we can do here is we can actually post this receipt in Business Central. So if I hit post here, it's the same as if I posted it in Business Central. There's all the same stuff. So we can set it up to have people manually hit post, or we can set it up so as soon as they leave the screen, it automatically posts that document. Or if you prefer that nobody posts from the shop floor, you can disable this menu completely. Okay, so that's basically it. That's receiving. Pretty straightforward. You come in, you choose the purchase order you want to receive against or warehouse receipt, and you start scanning barcodes, optionally entering quantities, and you're done. And you've completed your receiving activity. Now, once that's done, if you have putaways turned on, it can automatically generate the putaway, of course, or I could just scan one of the items in receiving to generate a put away document on the fly from the handheld device. Or if you don't have putaways turned on, you don't have to do anything. Now, once it's put away in the warehouse, I'm not going to go through this because putaways and picks sort of work and look almost exactly the same. So I'm going to show you the picks instead. But I put it, I've received it, I put it away. Now I've got an order that I need to pick. So the way that works, the picks are all generated inside Business Central. So again, all the information is stored in Business Central and is generated from within Business Central. So to create a pick ticket, it's the same process as you probably use today. I can use the pick worksheet to generate a batch pick where I've got multiple orders on the same pick ticket, or wave picking. I can, have one pick with split up, sorry, let me rephrase that. I can have one order split up on multiple picks, all sorts of stuff. So that's all done again in Business Central, either order to order picking or use the pick worksheet, and you get a pick ticket that's now available on the handheld device. And again, if you're not using picks, if you're just picking directly against the sales order, you wouldn't have a pick, you just have that sales order. So the way this works, if I open this up, we're getting a list of all the documents that are coming from Business Central. In my case, they're pick tickets, but these could be sales orders and transfer orders instead. And, most people still print a paper copy of the pick ticket for two reasons. Number one, hey, there's a piece of paper on the printer. It means I have work to do. So I grab that paper, I scan the barcode on it to open the pick on the handheld, and I do my work. And then the second reason is I can drop that piece of paper off at shipping or production so that the people there know what the heck I just left there. So paper is still very common, just as a sort of a traveler for that pick. But if you want to go more paperless, like your shipper is the picker, that's fine. I can use this screen as a bit of a dispatch list. So you can pre-assign the work to individual employees if you like, or you can have it set up so that as soon as I choose, pick number 4 as an example, it'll assign it to me and nobody else will see it on their screen. Just like in receiving, I can come in here and I can add additional fields. So maybe I want to put, the shipping agent, right? So UPS or FedEx or whatever in this list, because I want to pick all my UPS orders first, and then my FedEx, and then my freight, or something like that. So you can use this as a dispatch list to figure out what you're going to do next, or print the piece of paper and scan the barcode. In my case, I'm just going to come in here, choose one of these pick tickets, open it up, and it gives me a list of everything that I need to pick for this particular order or this pick ticket. And I do have bins enabled, of course, so it tells me which bin to go to and which item to pick from that bin. If you don't have bins enabled, it's not going to show you that. You're just going to scan the items that you're picking. We also have another view that we call a card view, which shows me one entry at a time, sort of in a card style page like in Business Central. And that's handy for, telling people do this step, then this step, then this step. So it shows me one line, I execute that, then it shows me the next line, and so on and so forth in sort of a vertical card view. This view, however, gives you a lot more context and a lot more flexibility. I can come in here, I can see everything I'm supposed to do, where I'm supposed to go. If I want to change how I pick, maybe I want to pick the heaviest items first, I could go in and add a weight field in this list. And then I can just tap on the top to sort by whatever column I want, right? So I could sort by weight, I could sort by unit of measure, whatever I want to do to change the display on how I'm supposed to pick things. Okay, so you have a lot more, again, flexibility here. Or I don't have to change that sort order to change the order that I'm picking it. So in my case, it's telling me to start at aisle 1 here. So this O1 is aisle 1, go to aisle 2, and so on and so forth. I don't want to start at aisle 1. I actually want to start picking in aisle 2 here. So that's what I'm going to do. So what I do is I walk up to the bin I want to pick from, and I'm going to scan that bin code. And so it tells me, yes, you're at bin 0201. And that's the default behavior. We want people to validate the bin that they're at because we want to, ensure we've got that inventory accuracy. We don't want them grabbing some of these items out of receiving because there's a pile of them there when they, the system is thinking they're picking them out of this bin. So we do scan the bin first. You can turn that off if you like, and you don't have to scan the bin. But I scan the bin here to verify where I'm at, and then I simply scan the item that I'm picking out of that bin. So which one will I scan? I'll scan this guy here, just so you know which one I'm scanning. Again, I don't have to know what it is. I'm going to grab an item out of the bin. I'm going to scan the barcode. It's going to, again, optionally show me the picture. I'm going to hide that, and then I'm optionally going to enter the quantity, and I'm done. I've executed that pick line. So we verified we picked it from the right place, the right item, and we're good to go. Now it shows up here, I've got it set so we still see that line on the screen with a quantity of 0 outstanding. But if you don't like that, you can actually come in here and you can do this hide completed. And that hide completed just hides any of the pick lines that are done. So as we're going through this pick, it just gets shorter and shorter as I pick those products. Okay, I like having it visible, but you know, that's an option anybody can use. So that's basically it. A scan bin, scan item, optionally enter quantity. If I run into a situation where maybe I go to this first bin and I'm looking for this item, maybe I can't find that item or there's not enough there. That should never happen because again, your inventory is going to be really, really accurate, and that shouldn't ever happen to you once you go to barcoding. But let's say it does happen, right? Somebody screwed something up and I need to figure out what's going on. So there's a bunch of stuff you can do, right? If you're running just an Android device like this guy, you know, you can run any app you want on this thing. I could be running Teams on here. And if you didn't know this, Teams has a walkie-talkie mode. So I can, you know, on Android, I can tap the little button to flip over to my other app. I can flip over to Teams, hit the big round walkie-talkie button on it, and broadcast to anybody else on that walkie-talkie channel. So this device will actually work like a walkie-talkie for me. And then I can, you know, say, hey, does anybody know where this stuff is? Or if you're running Zoom or something like that, you can run this on here and you can have those conversations from the device. I could also come in here, add a menu item that maybe sends a notification into Business Central or starts a chat message or whatever you want to do if you want to add a custom menu on there. Or I don't want to talk to anybody because clearly they screwed up and ruined my life. I'm going to fix this myself instead of, you know, deal with those guys. So what I'm going to do is on my keypad, I'm just going to hit one of the hotkeys and I'm going to drill down on that item. And so what I did was I went into the item inquiry directly from that screen, and it tells me what I should have in stock and where I can find that inventory. Okay, so which bins it's in. So it wasn't in this bin, even though there should have been plenty, but there's a bunch in some of the other bins that I could potentially pick from. So I could choose an alternate bin to pick from. If you have lot numbers in the system with expiry dates, I can also come in and, you know, make that visible. And I could also go and find the oldest lot number as an alternate thing to pick. I can also come in here and show the recent transactions. So again, this bin was empty potentially. Why? If I show recent transactions, I can see outstanding picks, recent putaways, things like that. You know, and hunt the guy that did the putaway to figure out what he actually did with the product, or maybe there's another outstanding pick and I can find that guy and make sure he didn't pick the wrong quantity or whatever. I can also show the picture again. So if I don't know what I'm looking for, you know, and the description isn't enough, maybe this is enough to spot that thing just sitting on the shelf beside where it's supposed to be, then grab it, scan it, move it over, and keep going. Okay, so that whole ability to drill down gives you a lot more insight into what's going on in the warehouse and actually lets you make decisions out there on the shop floor. Right? We've got this computer in our hand. We should use it like a computer and not just a dumb scanner. Right? So that drill down is nice. But again, pickers may not use that because they're in a rush. But for somebody like a warehouse supervisor or somebody that has to investigate what's going on, that's ideal. Okay, last thing I'll talk about real quick is lot numbers and serial numbers. So that last item on this pick is a lot tracked item. And so if I scan that guy, and if I scan a barcode that has a lot number in it, it brings it in. And of course, we'll record that lot number with that pick and everything else. And then, you know, depending on how you've got Business Central set up, there's lots of behaviors around that lot number. Like we could have a different line for each lot number and all sorts of things. But it does record the lot number that I've scanned, and we're good. Same thing with serial numbers. Just scan the serial number. The only difference is I don't enter a quantity because serial number is always a quantity of 1, and that's it. So yeah, that's picking. Scan bin, scan item, enter quantity. Now, if you want to get fancy, we can also do things like tote picking. And what tote picking allows us to do is, you know, if you're doing a batch pick where you've got multiple sales orders on the same pick ticket, I can assign totes to those orders. And as I'm picking, I'll scan an item and it'll say, hey, that item belongs in tote 2. And then I can scan tote 2 to verify that I've put that item in the right tote. So as I'm picking, it'll tell me which tote to place those items in so I can segregate those orders while I'm picking. And then when I drop that off at shipping, if you're using Dynamic Ship, I can scan that tote to bring up that order and everything I've packed, and I can process that order through Dynamic Ship. Okay. The other option is we can use license plating. So I use the example where we're building up a pallet as we're picking. but that could just as easily be a UPS box, right? So I could have 3 UPS boxes that I'm filling up while I'm picking. And so I can either use the menu item here, or I can have some pre-printed barcode labels. I just scan it, and that says, hey, it's this UPS box. I put my stuff into it. I scan a different UPS box for different stuff. And when I get over to shipping, I've got everything packed, right? I know which items are in which box. I can add a menu on here to print my shipping label. So I could print a UPS label or a FedEx label or whatever right from the handheld device if I want. Or more typically, I'll go into Dynamic Ship and print the labels from there. But I could, set it up to do everything from the device as well. Okay, so that's the license plating, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff here, but like changing the bin or splitting lines, those types of things that you can execute on the handheld device. But overall, picking, dirt simple. Usually, it's scan the bin, scan the item. As soon as I find the barcode for that item that I want, which one is it? As you saw, I've got a sheet of 1 million barcodes here, several sheets of 1 million barcodes. Scan bin, scan item. Option to look at the picture, enter the quantity, and I'm good. I've just executed that pick. Okay, so now last thing I'll talk about, just because I've been talking a lot, is the inventory count side of it. Because inventory accuracy, I've mentioned a million times, it's very important. And so you need a good way to validate, audit, and ensure that inventory stays accurate. So inventory counts suck. Nobody wants to do an inventory count. So having a good tool that's easy to use and effective to do those things is hugely important. And that's what this gives you. So again, we have the two, standard count and advanced count. They both sort of look and work the same way on the handheld devices. The advanced count gives you a lot more capability for doing automated recount sheets. So you can say, hey, anything that's up by more than 10%, automatically generate a recount for me. Those types of things gives you much better reconciliation reporting, all of that kind of stuff back in Business Central. So the advanced count, if you're using lot numbers or serial numbers, or if you have the directed put away option turned on, you'd want to use the advanced count. But from the handheld, they look basically the same. So I'm going to open up the advanced count. What it does is it gives me a list of count sheets here. And these are count sheets I've defined in Business Central ahead of time. There's another mode we call ad hoc count, where I don't have to go into Business Central and define a count ahead of time. As soon as I fire this up, it'll let me do sort of an ad hoc count where I can just quickly run out with the scanner, start a count, scan all the stuff, look at the discrepancies right on the handheld, and do my count on the handheld. But in this case, I've gone in and set up these count sheets. The count sheet is basically like a batch in Business Central. It's just a place where I'm going to store what I've counted. So if you're used to paper-based counts, same concept, right? Paper-based counts, I print out a bunch of paper that lists a bunch of items. They use those to find the product and specify the quantity. Exactly the same here. With one minor, well, it's not minor, with one exception. I can set up a count sheet like this Team 1, where I'm actually not telling people what they're supposed to count. So in Team 2 here, I've given them a list of 12 items to count. I've gone in and said, hey, give me a dozen random items to count today, or give me all my A items, or all my finished goods, or whatever. And it'll generate a list of items that I need to go out and count. So you can use whatever criteria you want for that. And that's, if you're used to paper-based counts, that's what you're likely doing today, getting a list of items, they go out and scan it or enter it. Team 1 is different. I'm not telling them what to find or count. I'm saying, you go out and count everything that you see, scan everything you find. And that'll tell Business Central, this is what's physically out in the warehouse. You tell me if there's any discrepancies. So this one's ideal for full physical counts, or if you're doing cycle counts by aisle or bin or whatever, this is handy. But full physical counts, you just send everybody out with a scanner, they scan everything they find, and then Business Central will tell you if there's any discrepancies. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to start with Team 1 here. And by the way, if I gave you this scanner right now and said, go do an inventory count, you would be able to do it. You've already been trained on how to do the inventory counts. And that's because, well, number one, it tells you at the bottom what you're supposed to do, but it's exactly the same as anything else in the system. I scan the bin, I scan the item, I enter the quantity. So basically, I'm going to go out, scan the bin, scan the item, option to look at the picture, enter the quantity I found of those, and that's it. I've executed a count on that specific bin and item. And that's what you keep doing. So you can have it remember the bin between scans on the inventory count if you want. So if you're scanning like a bulk area, you don't have to scan the same barcode over and over. But if I'm scanning a rack with multiple bins, I'm going to scan the bin code each time, scan bin, scan item, enter quantity, and that's basically it. That's how I do my inventory count. And now again, when I go into Business Central, it'll tell me discrepancies down to the lot number level and serial number level, all of those sorts of things. And I can hit a button to generate a recount sheet that says, hey, these things are out. Go out and double check these specific items. And it gives me an audit trail of the original account quantity, the recount, recounts on top of recounts, that sort of thing. Now, on the other type of account, which we call a direct account, where we're telling people what to go out and find and count, kind of like your paper-based counts, it's exactly the same. The only difference is now I'm explicitly telling them, go to this bin, count this item. So they'll scan the bin, they'll scan the item, and they'll enter the quantity. And we'll just update all of these entries here. Exactly the same concept though. Okay, so that's a little bit on the inventory count. And again, it works the same way from the handheld perspective for the standard count or the advanced count. The advanced count is far better. It's going to pay for itself very quickly. All right, so I think I've talked myself out. Wow, you're not done with me yet. I haven't quite talked myself out. Let's talk a little bit about pricing. So the way we sell the system is, well, first of all, it's free if you do WMS Express. So essentially everything I've shown you today in this demo, you can also do with WMS Express. The receiving and the picking and even the inventory counts, that's all available on WMS Express. License plating is not available on WMS Express. But anyway, so yeah, it's free. Or if you want all the other goodies, the way we sell it is per concurrent device. So what that means is, if you've got 10 scanners out in the warehouse, you would typically buy 10 licenses from us. But if only 5 of those scanners are ever in use at the same time, you'd actually only need 5 licenses from us to deal with those 10 scanners. So it is a concurrent license. And then after you've paid us some money, you have to pay Microsoft some money because they're poor and I guess really need their money. And so really anything that connects to Business Central, even if it's a standalone warehouse management solution and you have 10 handhelds on that standalone WMS that syncs with Business Central periodically, you need 10 licenses. That's a misconception. They think, oh, we only need 1 license to sync. No, every device that's going to look at Business Central data or ultimately get data into Business Central needs a license. And that license is typically a device license from Microsoft. And it's the exact same concept as ours. It's a concurrent license. If you've got 10 devices that are in use at the same time, you'd get 10 licenses from Microsoft, and those could be shared by 60 different people if you like, right? You're licensing it at the device level. If you're on NAV, which nobody is, so I'll skip that, but you can also use a named user license for these devices as well. So if you're a warehouse supervisor and you've got a dedicated device, maybe you use your phone to do the occasional scan or something like that, you don't need a separate license for that. You can just log into the scanner or the phone or whatever with your Business Central login, and that's fine. You can use your existing login for that device. Okay. All right. And then Dynamic Ship, I briefly touched on the advanced count and license plating. Those are all add-on modules. If you want those, that's an extra cost, and that's basically, for the most part, per company, so it's not per user. Per location is probably a more accurate way of saying that. But yeah, you can add those on, and you can have any number of users, using those different modules. Okay. Now, if you do need more information on the pricing and licensing, our knowledge base has an FAQ on there for licensing to give you a little more detail, or you can contact us or your partner, and we'll help you out with kind of what that looks like from a pricing perspective. If you want to look at some of the other products, we have additional webinars like this one coming up. And if you don't want to, wait for those, you can go online, and we have sort of these on-demand videos. They're just recorded webinars from past sessions like this one that you can watch at any time. They're on YouTube, so you can, subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. But you can go on and check those out at any time. And the knowledge base has, things like the development documentation, user guides, all of that kind of stuff for these applications that you can dig into if you want more detail. The hardware I mentioned, you can go to our shop there and look at the recommended devices and the relative pricing and all that kind of stuff. All right, I think that's it. If you have any additional questions, again, contact us or talk to your partner. We'll be happy to help out. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody for attending. Hope you have a great rest of the week. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel for more great content.